Okay, we are live stream. Tracy, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome everyone to the February 23rd, 2022 Environmental Committee meeting. The time now is 7:03 and we are here to just get capital improvement updates on the Owl's Head treatment plant. So I would like to turn it over now to the DEP representative. I believe Andrew is going to do the presentation today. Hi, Andrew.
Hi. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So I don't have a formal presentation, but I'm happy to talk about the capital projects that's going on at Owl's Head. Let's see. Okay, so you guys hear me well?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay. All right. So we do have quite a bit of stuff going on, quite a bit of projects going on at Owl's Head. I think last time we spoke was probably 2 years ago.
Yes.
And we gave an update on, I think, the dock project and the decoordination project. All right, so I'm happy to give updates on those, as well as new projects that are on the pipeline. Some are in design, some are in sort of a planning phase, and then there are other jobs that are in construction. So I don't manage all the projects. I manage some of the projects. I know of some because also I manage some of the projects. So we need to coordinate the designs. So if you guys have questions and if it's a project that's not mine, we'll be happy to take them. We'll be happy to go ask the project managers, do some research for you, and then give you guys the response or feedback that you're looking for. So I think Robert's on, right? So Robert, when we get started on updates to the capital projects for DEP.
Yeah, please. Like Andrew said, it's gonna be mostly verbal. But if you want to go more into depth on any other projects, we can come back with more information and possibly some PowerPoint presentations. But this is kind of just a brief overview of ongoing and some stuff in the pipeline, like Andrew said. So yeah, take it away.
Okay. So let's go with the dock project. I mean, that's a job that's very visible. It's been impact. Just sort of a really quick background on the dock project. It started a number of years ago in the design. The dock's used for sludge transportation. Owl's Head doesn't have a dewatering facility, which is basically the very last process in a wastewater treatment plant, where we reduce the amount of water in sludge before it's shipped off for refining for use. Because by dewatering the sludge, you can reduce on shipping trucking costs. So it's really good. It's a good investment to do dewatering, but not all of our facilities has dewatering. I think out of the 14 plants, I believe probably 9 or 8 or 10, somewhere in that range, has dewatering. And so the facilities that doesn't have dewatering, like Owl's Head, we ship out sludge through those barges with the dock into one of the facilities that has dewatering. So the dock project is a dock that we use to ship out sludge from Owl's Head. And several years ago, I think back in 2016, 2017, we do our routine inspections on the docks, and we notice severe deterioration of those wooden piles a lot faster and greater than we would have expected since the previous review. And that led us to this project to repair the docks. And we were able to reuse the dock spans both a west facing dock and a north facing dock. And during the course of this project, we were at one point able to use the north facing dock for a period of time. And then somewhere in 2020, that dock, we did a follow-up investigation, and that dock also found to be severely deteriorated over the course of the previous 3 years for the same reason as the West dock, and probably also for continued use of it because previously it hasn't been used. So maybe there's a chance that the fact that we're using it more and more often caused it to degrade a little bit faster. So that led us to do some on-site dewatering, which is going on still currently today. And luckily around that time we had finished the designs and we started construction. We had a contractor, we TP'd, and then COVID happened. The nice thing was that this was one of the priority projects that COVID didn't stop. So, at that point, we put a pause on a lot of projects just because of the fiscal crisis that we were anticipating with the COVID response. But the dock project continued because it was one of the priority projects. But the work wasn't without any problems. Initially, we had some concerns about finding piles, but we were able to locate some piles that were already in the United States that didn't have to be fabricated overseas, and we were able to purchase those piles and start using that for our construction. I want to say that was probably, I'm not sure if that was the last update I gave you. Since then, we've had a number of delays on the project. I'm sure none of you guys like to hear. It's nothing that we like to hear, and we're working hard on trying to mitigate these delays. First, we had some problems, other issues with COVID-19, with soliciting equipment. Our power driving equipment was coming from Canada, and the purchasing and delivery of that power driving equipment took months, a lot longer than we had anticipated. And then we had some technical issues with that power driving equipment, and getting a service rep from Canada was also really difficult and delayed and just took forever. It's like every time we had someone come out here, they had to be in quarantine for 2 weeks, and then finally they can see it, and so it took some time. So that sort of delayed us a few months. And when we're finally able to get the power driving equipment going, the first thing we do is we do a power driving pilot test or pilot testing program, where we just sort of verify the depth of piles we need to get the structural strength and capacity we're looking for the dock. We do it during design, but we don't really drive piles. We just kind of bore into the ground and look for type of soil that's there. Look for bedrock, and there's no bedrock in that area. And just sort of look for the soil consistency that tells us that, hey, we need to go down about 100 feet deep for these piles to get the strength we need. And typically, we have a lot of experience with all the marine work that's being done on site to give us a good confidence that 100 feet is about what we need. And so in this case, it was about 100 feet. We did the pilot testing program. We started driving the equipment. And the first few was pretty spot on. We were about 100, 110, 120 feet depth. And then some of the other piles that we tested were going deeper and deeper until we got the strength we need. And we're going down to like 160 depth, 200 depth. It was just all over the place. And it's just, I guess, the level of uncertainty of the subsurface. And that caused sort of like we need to maybe look at this again, because we only bought so many piles for 100 feet depth, and now we're seeing some that are significantly more. We need to evaluate to find out, like, we're going to be short on piles. If that's the case, what else can we do? What else can we do so that we can sort of reduce the length? And there's also some difficulties with driving deeper piles, just in terms of the work, the length of piles we need to bring on site, the type of welding that needs to be done. And like, you don't want any piles longer than 100 feet, just because you can't really weld those piles on site. You weld it on a shop, and you're not going to weld over 100 feet in a shop and have it delivered. So we had to reevaluate the design a little bit. We played around with different design pile ends, and we found one that was that sort of hit the depth we need. Gets back to the depth we're looking for, which is about 100 feet. Except for that, these pile tips now needs to be kind of welded into the existing piles that we've done, and so that led to change orders. So we had some delays on the power driving. Some of it was, thank you. This is from the last presentation, right? This is great.
I think it's easier, the visual, just to refresh our memories.
Definitely. And so the dock is facing out, obviously into the lower bay, Right. Perfect. These are great slides. So the depth of the piles ended up being longer than we anticipated. We had to go back and redesign, sort of look at different designs for the pile tips. Originally we had open-ended piles. Now we're designing specific tips, so that it can help reduce the amount of increase the friction we may need for the structural. So we finalized the design. Now we just need to fabricate those piles. And so we had a sort of a 6 month, I'll say 6 month to a year delay, just sort of, from the COVID-19 impacts with the deliveries, the power driving equipment, the maintenance and the inspections that we needed to get done on that, and the COVID-19 protocols that were in place. And then I think, even earlier we had different waves that also impacted working, right? Because we have more people out sick. And now with the pile problems we're finding, we have a resolution now, but everything means, more money, there's change orders, contractor that doesn't want to work at risk, we're waiting for change orders to get registered. And so we're at the point where we're anticipating. And when we had discussed previously, on-site dewatering is occurring until we can fix the dock, but we don't need to fix the entire dock to stop on-site dewatering. The plan was to complete the west dock first, right, which is the one facing up towards the page, and we can run some temporary sludge lines right to the dock so that we can continue sludge loading. And originally we had anticipated that be done by June of 2022. And now we're looking at about a 2-year delay after, everything, what's going on. We anticipate 2-year delay. Some of it is the contractor putting in their schedule that they're not going to work at risk until the change orders are registered. So that's not something that they say they would definitely do. I think they're willing to work with the city to accept some risk. But I guess as their scheduler, they want to show the worst case, which would be in second, third quarter of 2024. So that's where we are with the dock construction, the west dock. The north, because now the north dock is also failed. We are doing work on the north dock. We're already demoing it, putting new sheet piles on there, and so the completion of the project has only delayed about 6 months. Right, just because we can at least work on the demolition of the north dock, and then when we start the construction and get the piles we need, we can sort of just drive the piles on the west dock, and then continue driving in the north dock, and then right behind those pile drivers, we can start putting the concrete work, for the piles that put the platform on and do all the mechanical systems, electrical systems, and so forth and so forth. So
Okay,
that's where we are with the dock project. Any questions?
Tracy Ann has her hand raised.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what is a breasting dolphin?
So our vessels are about 300-foot length long, and that west dock, that red section, that's like the rectangle, that's only about 150 length. And so when you have a situation where like your vessel is bigger than the dock that you have, a cheaper alternative than having a full length dock is that you have these breasting dolphins. So sort of to help keep the ship straight. You can moor on them, while you're on there. And so those breasting dolphins were severely failed. They were falling apart. Some of them were like halfway into the water body. And so they're being replaced too. We couldn't extend, or we technically could extend that dock to the length that we really want to, but then that would have required more permitting, discussions with the Army Corps of Engineers, DEC mitigation of waters, and so we elected to not extend the dock because the permitting would add another at least 2 years to the project. So we're just replacing everything in kind. So we're all replacing breasting dolphins. There'll be better breasting dolphins, and instead of 3, we'll have 4 smaller ones instead of 3 big ones. But essentially, it's like it's done in case like your dock is actually shorter than the vessel that it needs to land on.
It's very clear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question?
And I had a question, Andrew.
Question?
The 2-year delay on the west dock, is that taking into account any kind of further supply issues, or all supplies are in now and it's just a contractor issue?
We remember the piles we have were sufficient for the north and the west. So we're gonna need more pile lengths, and we're gonna use all the piles we have now to finish the west. And we're gonna have plenty of piles for the west. And while that's happening, we have some time to buy more piles for the north. And so if there's gonna be some piles that we need to buy more, we'll probably put those piles at the very, very end of the dock. And so like that's pretty much the last pile that needs to be driven. So that way we wouldn't, one, for us, mission critical was getting that west dock active, because that stops the emergency dewatering, which for a lot of reasons is a headache to everyone. And so we have enough piles for at least the west dock, and then we are looking to buy more piles for the rest of the north dock. We would be short from our projections, but we have probably 2 years to get some more. And it's hard to say what 2 years can look like from today. I mean, I think 2 years ago, none of us thought we would be where we are today, and here we are.
Exactly.
I think Larry has his hand up.
Larry?
You hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I
On
said,
your,
okay, tree.
you
I
hear me
don't know why you want it to be tree.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
No, on your citywide map. If you go back to that citywide map,
There's no to pull. Guys? Did you
I
forget?
think you're actually pointing out the Army terminal, not the sewage treatment plant. Keep going.
You
Keep
forget?
going. Further back.
Come back the other pull. and get
Keep
all
going,
back
keep
the power
going.
that she was using.
Right there. You said Owl's Head wastewater treatment.
I
plant.
was not
That
using
red
that
outline is for the
power.
Army terminal, not the plant.
The terminal.
No,
that is-
on the
that
left,
is
on the left,
treatment
on the
plant?
left.
Oh, yeah, we're there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
that
and it's an old slide deck.
for sure.
but,
Yeah,
you're
I wonder
pointing
if
out
that
the
got
Army terminal. That's not the
shifted.
Owl's Head plant.
Yeah, I wonder if that
There's a
got
rectangle
shifted.
below that.
That definitely gets off. It is not in the right location.
Right. The location's to the
That's a
right.
good
Larry.
catch.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
question-
we're right opposite of Owlshead Park.
That happens sometimes on mapping tools.
Another question.
Mhm.
You never
Are you
considered
sure you want
having a
a-
sludge force main to pump
Are
the
you
excess
sure?
sludge to
Are you
another
sure
plant?
you want a hotter one?
Because I know the Tony Allen plant has a force main where they pump the sludge up to Starrett City, the 26th ward plant. Is that just considered too
There-
expensive or?
There is actually a couple plants that has that. I think in Staten Island we have one, in Port Richmond and Oka Beach. Coney Island to 26th Ward, I'm actually not aware of that one. And so you definitely could, you
Runs
absolutely
along
could
the
be
Bell
right.
Parkway. It runs along the Bell Parkway.
Yeah, right. I know. It makes a lot of sense to have it here. It's definitely a lot bigger project, a lot more challenges, permitting wise, easement wise. Probably doing some like tunneling work. As a short term, I mean that may be a long term solution, a long term plan, and I don't think that's something we've discussed in the long term plan at this point. It is a bigger project to do a force main underground, to another
with the sludge
facility.
boats then. Stick with the
Yeah,
sludge boats for now.
Yeah, I would say from Owl's Head to the closest plant with dewatering, maybe Newtown Creek. I want the Newtown has
Red
no.
Hook,
Newtown
Red
doesn't have dewatering.
Hook?
Red Hook?
Hook?
Yeah, Red Hook has, and that'd be all in the water for the most part. That would be a pretty big tunneling job. No, not tunnel, or at least a water job. But that's something, I'll take that with me whenever, long-term planning is brought up about Owl's Head and the sludge. I'll bring that up and say, hey, was that ever a thought? Because I could see that being a visible option.
But you stick with the sludge boats for now.
For now, we have just had significant investments in sludge boats. I think for the Newtown Creek job, or at least part of the Newtown Creek job, we just built 3 new sludge vessels with the existing sludge vessels we have. So we're about 6 or 7 sludge vessels with 3 brand new state-of-the-art sludge vessels. So and they were built probably 10 years ago, and so in the naval world, that's still fairly new, right? And so I think the thought is that we have these sludge vessel invested in that it doesn't make sense to continue using and doing dock repairs. We have several dock repair projects all around the facility, though, and a lot of them just because over about 30, 40 years old, they're built around the same time. But for sure, long-term planning comes about again, and we need to talk about vessels and docks. Definitely an option to bring up. I do like that idea.
Thank you, Andrew. Does anyone else have any questions regarding the docks?
I don't know if you're hearing my kids in the background.
Yes.
All right. Next project that we have on the list, my list, was Alice at 92, which was a dechlorination project. And so that project was driven by a consent order agreement where we had to reduce the total residual chlorine right before it leaves the plant into the water body. Residual chlorine. If you guys have pools, a great disinfectant. It kills pathogens. It also kills everything else. And so new rules, water quality standards is saying that, hey, we need to reduce the chlorine residual because it's harmful to the water body as well. And there are many ways to do that. There are many different technologies. We can change disinfection, but ultimately the technology, the science that we're using to accomplish the lower residual chlorine was to put a chemical called sodium bisulfite, which essentially neutralizes total residual chlorine. And the chlorine storage and all the dechlor storage and the dechlor treatment was going to be done within the plant, right at the end of the contact tank, as the slide shows. And it's going to look like it's going to be in a new building. And the building's going to have the chemical storage, the pumps, the controls, everything, all the bells and whistles you need to run the system. Okay. So this contract was registered and was issued NTP, and we had an NTP date, the notice to proceed date for the contractor of March 30th of 2020. And so right around COVID, when we issued NTP, and literally the day after we issued NTP, the contractor submitted the delay claim, COVID issues. We're delayed, right? Because at that point, the whole world stopped, I think. No one knew what the hell was going on. So right off the bat, we did issue delay claims. So we weren't doing work. And until I think everyone thought it was going to be a 2-week thing. And then when this 2-week, stop thing ended up being a month long, ended up being 2 months long. I think around on May, we officially put a hold on the work because we realized that this wasn't a 2 or 4 week or 6 week sort of stop of the world. It was going to be a lot longer than that. So we put an official on hold to the contractor in May, just to see what's going on in the world. We were prioritizing the more important projects, again because of the fiscal issues we were projecting. And as the time ticked, we decided to go back to the state. We've been talking to the state. They understood the situation. They agreed. They gave us a year. They were able to push the consent order a year later, and because they understood the issues that was going on around the world. But we also went to them and we asked them, you know, $30 million investment for this facility really only improves one of the pollutants of concern, total residual chlorine. We have a lot of work that we need to get done. You know, a lot of our equipment is old. We felt that if we can use that money, $30 million, plus others from other projects, and put them in projects where it can help the entire facility, the entire efficiency of the plant. We're going to help reduce pollutants across the board, not just total residual chlorine. And so we pitched to the state, what if we commit ourselves to bigger projects, different projects that will help solids handling, that will help other treatment processes, aerations, so forth, right? And then save some money by not doing dechlor, or at least push the dechlor projects a little later, because the reality was money was short, right? They actually sort of okayed the idea, and we discussed it further and further and further. And so now we're at the point where we're ready to, the lawyers are talking to sign this revised consent order to really push these projects. You know, I think originally we were supposed to meet total residual chlorine by like 2025 or so, 2024, 2025. And then they're willing to push it back to 2030, so long as we do other projects that help with the treatment process. Okay, and some of those other projects we'll talk about today. So long story short, with this project, we should NTP in March 30th, 2020. We stopped the job in May 2020. It's been on hold since then. We've talked to the state about pushing these projects a little further. Maybe do some chlorine improvements though, right? Because our chlorine system here is severely old. So some chlorine improvements will help with the efficiency of chlorine. And then do other projects along with that to help plant-wide a holistic approach to getting pollutants low. So we're at the point where we're looking to cancel this job, right? Cut the cord from the contractor. They've been sitting around for a little while trying to figure out what we're going to do. And then repackage this project as a chlorination improvement project. So basically that means the building won't be built under this contract, but we'll do all the chlorine work. So new chemical storage tanks, new chemical metering, controls, more efficient controls, more efficient system. And so that's going to be part of a repackaged contract that we're going to have to rebid. And we're looking to do that. I don't quite have a date of how long that's going to take. We're currently working with the designers to give them a change order, come up with a plan on repackaging, come up with a schedule to get this done. We're not looking to do a whole new design, so we're anticipating reissuing this contract within a year, at least within a year that the consultant is willing to start, and without too many changes to the contract besides the dechlor work being stricken. So that's where we are with the dechlor project. It's being pushed back until 2030, and the money we're saving, the $30 million we're saving, we're going to use it on other projects.
Other projects at Owl's Head, is that correct?
At Owl's Head, yeah. And I'll go over some of these other projects today. We have a lot of projects going on. Okay, any questions? Okay. So I don't have slides for other projects. Some of them are really early. Some of them not my project, so I don't really have much slides. But certainly next time around, I can try to put something together, a little more detailed of what's going on. So there is a project that is currently going on, not related to the consent order for the TRC. It's a resiliency project that we have FEMA funding on. It's a project to flood-proof the facility, prevent something like Hurricane Sandy shutting down the facility like it did 10 years ago now. Crazy, 10 years. Or Ida, right? Flooding everything out. So that job is actually underway. It's in construction right now. It involves a lot of different things. Some of it it's raising walls up higher, where like say there's like there may be like a intake louver in the basement of the building. So there may be like a planter that's kind of around where the intake louver is. We're just raising it up higher above the flood elevation, so water wouldn't be able to jump over the wall and flow into the basement. The facility also has tunnels that basically connects to all different process areas, and these tunnels are underground. So the project also includes installing like flood barriers that can sort of seal off the tunnels from the different process areas. So when the storm's coming, they can prepare for it. They can sort of seal off the tunnel, so you won't have maybe water coming in from one side of the plant, one part of the facility. Now. That flood water is now kind of going into a main area where it may really impact treatment. So a lot of details, a lot of different, like little small like contract packages all around the facility. So I don't know the full detail of the project. I just know that most of that work is going to be FEMA reimbursable. So it includes all the flood protection that we need, and I think also includes some of the damaged equipment. The things that we were able to duct tape 10 years ago, and it was still duct tape today. We get to replace it, and they get to pay for it. Any questions on that project? I think we call it the resiliency project at Owl's Head, or Owl's Head RLCY.
Is there a completion estimate or?
Oh yes. So we started that in November of 2020, and we're expected to complete by the second quarter of 2023. So probably another year or so.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. Another project, and so this is going to be part of the concern order. We're doing final settling tank improvements. It's Owl's Head 88. Right. So part of the treatment process, we have the main sewage pumps. That takes the sewage from the sewers and interceptor lines, which is the lowest point of the facility. And we pump them up to primary settling at first, where they do some of the sedimentation of the non-organics. And then from primary settling, it goes into aeration, where we start, where we have organic matter, what we call bugs. We call them bugs, basically, a waste or activated sludge. They're basically live, basically what we're simulating what's going on in the natural environment. And we're just sort of speeding that up, so we feed them oxygen. The wastewater is the food source for them. And so we just give them oxygen to sort of just burn that food source. And so the bug sort of takes away all that excess organics in that wastewater. And then after that, it goes to final settling, where we settle out some of that activated sludge. And then at that time, after final settling, the water is pretty clear at the end of final settling. And we send it up to chlorination to remove any of the remove any of the pathogens before it goes out to the water body. So Owl's Head 88 is improvements to the final settling tank. We have, I want to say, 16 final settling tanks, and they were all constructed back in 1980s when the big upgrade at the facility was done. So that was about 40 years ago. And so it's about the life cycle of the equipment. So we go in there, we're doing an analysis, say what's broken, what's not broken, what needs to be fixed, what kind of technology is out there that we can do this better. And so that's what we call like a preliminary design. And the outcome of preliminary design is the basis of design report, which basically spells out what we're doing on this project. So that was completed. That was completed back in November of last year, 2021. And so we're starting design. We're starting design now. It's not a, I mean, the project itself, it's a really big project. It's not a complicated project, but it's a big project. We have 16 final settling tanks. There's a building located at the final settling tank deck that houses a lot of the motors and equipment, the electrical equipment, the motors that runs the cross collectors. The building is manned, so we have HVAC, there's architecture, the structural. It's a lot of stuff. And one of the things that we found was that that building was built back in 1960s code, which was a great code back in 1960s. But we're in 2020, and there's a lot of things that just doesn't work today. So there's a lot of code upgrades that we need to make to that building. We may have to build a second floor for the electrical room just because we just don't have enough space. And so that project's right now in design. We're approaching 30% design. At one point, likely, you guys will see this project because it will need to go for PDC approval.
Right.
We will try to talk about it more often as well as we meet. Currently, the design is scheduled to be completed in around the third quarter of 2024. So it's about a 2.5 year design, right? It's probably a 2-year design, and then it takes about 6 months to kind of go through all the legal stuff before we put the contract. So 2024 is when we're forecasting design completion. Another year for procurement, and so luckily 2025 is when construction will begin, and it's about a 4-year construction job, right? And so somewhere in 2029 is where we're forecasting completion of this project. And so the final settling tank improvements, we're by improving final settling tanks, we're going to get less solids going into the chlorine contact tanks. That should also help with chlorination. So again, like these type of projects sort of helps one, the facility to keep running efficiently, and two, it has residual impacts because we're doing our solids handling better. We're doing these things better. We're being more efficient. So this is one of the projects that we see as being more efficient project. It's a quite costly project. I think over 100 million. I don't have the final number off the top of my head, but I remember seeing some figures that this is a big project cost wise. It's a big part of the facility, like almost half the facility. Any questions? Final settling tank improvement.
So just out of curiosity, if it's using that much of the facility, how does a project that large actually affect the day-to-day operations?
Well, we have 16 tanks.
Okay.
So it's a good thing we have 16. We need 14 to run full wet weather capacity, right? So we can shut down a tank, work on it. I think each tank shut down. So far we're really early design. So as we know, we get more detailed, but as we see it, it takes about 4 months to do each tank. So it's just 16 times 4 months is just a long time to get everything done. There may be some opportunities, and we will explore that during design about maybe doing 2 tanks at a time, maybe during certain seasons. We'll risk, we'll weigh the risk versus the rewards. But right now, I think the plan is let's just do 1 tank at a time. Keep it simple. We have 16 tanks. We need 14 to run wet weather. So even by just doing 1, we still have a contingency, right? And it just makes the project a long project.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Larry.
Did you ever consider having a combined sewer overflow tank?
A combined sewer overflow?
Yes, tank for, you mentioned wet weather. That's why I'm missing.
Combined sewer, there's actually other projects doing combined sewer overflow. The combined sewer overflows need to happen offsite because sewer overflows is done at regulators, before it goes to the treatment plant. And it's just
the one in Canarsie, right?
Right.
Ralph.
Right. There are actually projects. There's a long-term control plan projects that are putting CSO retention facilities, CSO storages. Nothing under my belt or I'm super familiar with, but for sure, if you're interested in knowing more of those projects, shoot us an email, and Robert and myself, we'll get information if you're interested in about our CSO projects. We have quite a bit. I think a lot of it in the outside drainage area, and some in the Newtown Creek drainage area. I'm just looking at a portfolio of the projects. We have so many projects going on.
Tony Allen, the one in Canarsie, Flatlands.
I think there probably is one there. I'm not, again, they're all in different phases. Some are in design, some are construction, some are, the unique challenges, and I don't want to take too much time. They're really not my projects. But one of the unique challenges about those CSO facilities is that we have to purchase land. Usually there may be, this is the great spot for it, but maybe houses here, different ownership, not the city. And there's a whole long legal process for the city to purchase that land. And sometimes people there may be residential areas, and folks just they don't want to sell no matter what price.
Not in my backyard.
So there are definitely a lot of challenges with those projects. But certainly, if you want to know more information, just let us know, and we'll get the information for you guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Next project on my list. This is one of my projects. This is the main sewage pump reconstruction at the Owl's Head 112. I'm sorry, Owl's Head treatment plant. This is Owl's Head 112. So basically, the whole system from the main interceptor through the screening channel. And the screenings are there to capture some of the big stuff that get flushed into sewage, like alligators or bowling balls. Don't ask me how to get flushed down. They show up somehow. The screenings are there to help prevent big items from getting into the pumps and damaging the pumps. So those screens are being replaced. The gates to the screens are being replaced. The main sewage pumps, we have 5 main sewage pumps. They're being replaced. The main sewage pump pumps everything to a header and a force main. The force main is going to be relined all the way up to the primary settling tank, where they split into the 4 settling tanks. So that box where they split, that's going to be redone. So that's a pretty big and pretty important project, considering we consider main sewage pumps as the heart of the facility. Without them, the plant doesn't run. So that's one of the projects I'm doing. We are finishing our preliminary design now. Right, we have a basic design report done. We're just waiting for all the stakeholder to accept the scope that we've laid out, and I think we're probably weeks away from that signature and that approval. Which also means that we're probably days or weeks away from starting design. That's going to be a long design. It's about a 3-year design that actually DEP is doing 100% in-house. We're using our in-house staff to do that design. We're not hiring consultants to do it. And so it's a 3-year design, and about a year procurement, and the construction at this point we're saying 4 years, but that's very early. And that the construction schedule will change depending on, when we do the design, there's going to be a lot of constraints. We just don't know what those are yet. But when we start the design, we'll know, it could be we can't do these main sewage pumps until this happens, or whatever it might be. One big part of that project will be putting an interim system, pump around system, right? Because the force main needs to be relined, and we only have 1 force main. So we're designing that now and looking at different options of running that interim pump system. Any questions on the main sewage pump? And again, that will probably end up going to PDC. You guys will hear about that. This is just sort of like an early, hey, we're just letting you know this project is coming. And obviously, your input, your feedback would be appreciative, to this project, any of our project here at Owl's Head. Okay, last project on my list that I have, and there are other projects that I just don't know what may be going on. They're probably smaller projects. But the last project I know of is an Owl's Head 95. This is a main substation replacement and engine replacement engine generator. This is a NYPA-led project. NYPA is the New York Power Authority. It's a NYPA-led project, but I think somehow they're still giving us the bill. It's not really fair, but I guess they're the power experts, so we leave it to them to design and manage the project. And essentially the main substation, where Con Ed comes to the facility, we have our big transformers and our powers the entire plant. They're also 40 years old, and electrical equipment's good for that 35. And so this project is going to build a whole new substation, all within the plant property. It may encroach out a little bit. I think at least the latest drawing I saw from them, slightly into that grassy field where the entrance to the Belt Parkway is. Yeah, I think that's the entrance to the belt from the BQE. But like it won't be. It's a pretty big grassy area, and they're talking about maybe just encroaching on like a couple of feet just because of the shape of the building. That project used to be a bigger project. That project used to be a main substation project, engine generation replacement project. I think the plant has 3 engines currently, and the original project scope was to replace all 3 of those engines. And those engines are just there solely to produce electricity. I think we use digested gas as well as natural gas to kind of produce electricity. And we use those engines as a heat recovery for our heating. It's kind of used as boilers. And that old project also included a lot of our electrical switchgear that are also 40 years old. And I believe I don't know the full details, but at one point we had to cut scope on the project because we had to cut cost on the project. And so now we're doing what's absolutely necessary, which is the main substation and replacement of one of the engine generators. Because I think we had 3 engine generators. 2 of them still work okay. One of them has failed completely. For what I understand, it has a catastrophic failure. It cannot be replaced. So we're just going to scrap that one generator and build a new one to replace it. And so that's what this OH95 project is. It was a big change in scope. I think that big change in scope was decided somewhere mid last year. And as they kind of went through the process of figuring what the new scope was going to be, we had to sort of redo the preliminary design. Literally, that project was 90% designed, the old project. It was really ready to go, and there was a funding issue in COVID. So now they're doing a redo of the preliminary design to make sure all their design assumptions still work. They just finished that, or will be finished with that around this time. I think they told me end of February. And then it'll kick off design after that's done. I do not know much details besides the scope of the project. I don't have a schedule. I would think since the old project was 90% design done, that the design wouldn't take that long. But I'm not really sure. And so we have monthly meetings with the design team of OH95 because it's really impactful to what we're doing with OH112. And that's as far as I know. But again, we have a contact within DEP, within NYPA. So any questions about that project, we can certainly give it to you guys. All right. And I do know there's a couple of smaller projects going on. That's BWT-led, Operating Bureau-led, right? Because we're the capital projects people. Operating Bureau has a lot of projects they do, smaller projects, sort of static good repair, maintenance projects. They do one on a primary selling tank, which I know they've been in the works for a little while now. They've been doing work on the aeration system. They've been doing work on the sludge storage system. I know they've cleaned it recently, and they recently repaired the Wiggins gas holder on the sludge system. And I think they have routine maintenance on the sludge system, the digesters. So there's tons of work going on at Owl's Head. A lot of stuff going on. But I don't have much information about those other projects. All I know is we want to do is dock work. and they tell us, oh, we're doing our digester storage work this week, and so you can't do the stock work for another month or two. So that's how we know about these other projects.
Does anyone have
Any questions?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Any questions?
No, I don't see any. I think I'd like to say that, the board, just to reemphasize to the members of the committee and to DEP that Owl's Head is a major, city infrastructure within the community board that services not only our district, but a greater part of the city. And we certainly, each year during our capital and expense priorities, raise our voices for, ongoing capital improvements at the plant, because it's, so important, as we all know, especially with the most recent storm, and the people didn't realize the importance of stormwater capture and maintaining our infrastructure, and understanding what's happening there is certainly of importance to all of us, and any community impacts, et cetera. I mean, we have a lot of design capital projects in the future, and we look forward to reviewing them and speaking to you. And I also appreciate the notifications when there are community impacts, if a settling tank is put out of line, or, et cetera. So I just want to take this opportunity and say that to you. To all, and we do appreciate the update. And, we'll certainly regroup as a committee, right, Tracy, and see. We have a lot of interest in knowing what's happening right at our northern border, and making sure that capital improvements continue, and we have an understanding of, schedules and other community impacts. So thank you, Andrew, for the updates.
Very much. Really.
Yeah, thank you for having me and sharing you these projects, these great projects that we have. And it's a collaborative effort between everyone, all stakeholders, yourselves included, to making this project a good project. We don't want to lose sight of maybe certain things that we're not thinking of, that you guys are, and that's why I think these meetings are great. It makes a project a better project.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. Really appreciate it. We look forward to hearing from you again in the near future, and getting more updates. So thanks.
Okay. You're welcome.
If anyone doesn't have any more questions, then I think we can adjourn. Yes, Josephine?
Yes, sounds good to me. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.